An old man visits a shelter, and a scared German shepherd starts crying. What happens next will break your heart. The sun had just started rising as Henry Carter walked down the quiet streets of Millridge. His steps echoed through the still morning air. At 65, Henry's silver hair and lined face told the story of a long, full life. But his eyes held a deep sadness, heavy with every step he took. It had been 1 year since Henry lost his best friend, his beloved German shepherd, Rocky. The pain still felt fresh. His house felt empty without Rocky, who had been by his side for over 10 years. Like every morning, Henry took the same path to the Millridge Animal Shelter. He had started volunteering there after Rocky passed, hoping it would help ease the emptiness. The shelter was a small, worn-out building on the edge of town, its faded blue paint chipped in places. But to Henry, it was a safe space, filled with animals who just needed love. As he neared the entrance, he could already hear the barks and meows welcoming the morning. "Morning, Henry," called out a voice. It was Rachel, the young manager of the shelter. Henry stepped inside. Rachel smiled, but it faded slightly when she noticed how tired he looked. "Rough morning?" she asked gently. Henry gave a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just one of those days. Rocky would have turned 12 today." Rachel's expression softened. She had known Henry before Rocky passed and had seen how close they were. "I'm so sorry, Henry. I know how much you miss him." Henry nodded and cleared his throat. "No point in sitting in it. What do you need help with today?" As Rachel started listing the tasks, a noise came from the back of the shelter. Loud whimpers and anxious barks filled the hallway. "Not again," Rachel said, worry in her voice. "It's the new arrival. Came in late last night. A German shepherd. He's been abused badly. We can't even get near him yet." Henry felt a sharp pain in his chest. "Mind if I try?" Rachel looked unsure. "Be careful. He's in bad shape, and he's scared of people. We don't know what he might do." Henry nodded and walked to the isolation area in the back. The sounds of fear grew louder. When he reached the last kennel, his heart dropped. In the far corner, a large German shepherd huddled, shaking. His coat was dull and dirty. Scars covered his body. Signs of pain and cruelty were all over him. His eyes were wild with fear, darting around the small space. Henry crouched down slowly. He didn't want to scare him. "Hey there, buddy," he said gently. "It's okay. No one's going to hurt you here." At the sound of Henry's voice, the German shepherd lifted his ears. He turned and looked directly at Henry. Everything froze. Then something amazing happened. The fear in the dog's eyes faded. The trembling stopped. Slowly, his tail began to wag. And then, as Henry stared in disbelief, the German shepherd let out a soft cry. Tears welled up in his eyes. "Rachel!" Henry called, his voice shaking. "Come here. Hurry!" Rachel ran over and gasped. The German shepherd, who had been impossible to approach just a minute ago, was now pressed against the kennel door. His eyes were locked on Henry with such deep emotion, it made Rachel tremble. "I don't believe it," she whispered. "It's like he knows you." Henry couldn't move. Something about this German shepherd felt familiar. The look in his eyes, the way he reacted. A warmth Henry hadn't felt in a long time was rising again. His hands began to shake. "Take a second. Let us know what corner of the world you're from. Your comment connects hearts across oceans. If this story stirred something in you, like and subscribe, so this ripple of hope can reach even further." Henry slowly reached for the latch on the kennel door. "Henry, wait," Rachel called out, worry in her voice. "We don't know if he's safe." But before she could finish, the door swung open. In an instant, the German shepherd burst out. He ran straight at Henry, knocking him backward. Rachel gasped, bracing for the worst. She was sure the dog was going to attack. But then, something incredible happened. Instead of biting, the German shepherd began licking Henry's face over and over. His whole body wiggled with joy. Henry, caught by surprise, wrapped his arms around the dog. His eyes filled with tears. "Rocky," Henry whispered, barely able to speak. Rocky, is that really you? The German shepherd let out a quiet bark and snuggled closer into Henry's arms. There was no doubt in Henry's heart. This was Rocky. Somehow, someway, his best friend had come back. As Henry held him close, his mind flashed back to that awful day, 1 year ago. It was a morning just like this one. They had gone for their usual walk when Rocky spotted a cat running across the street. Before Henry could tighten the leash, Rocky pulled free and chased after it. Henry had shouted, but it was too late. The car screeched. There was a loud thud. Rocky lay still in the road. Henry ran to him, cradling his body in his arms. The driver, a young man, looked horrified and kept apologizing. In the middle of the chaos, someone had called for help. Animal control arrived quickly. Some kind strangers told Henry they would take Rocky to get treated. In shock and heartbreak, Henry had nodded, unable to think clearly. He let them take Rocky. Later, when he tried to find out where they took him, he hit a wall. None of the local clinics had any record. The animal control officer had vanished. It was like Rocky had disappeared without a trace. But now, as he held this brave German shepherd again, it all made sense. Rocky hadn't died that day. He had survived. But he'd been taken, hurt, confused, and somehow ended up in the wrong hands. People who saw him as nothing more than a tool for cruel dogfights. Henry's voice broke as he whispered, "Oh, Rocky. What did they do to you, boy? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Rachel stood nearby, tears in her eyes. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. "Henry," she said gently, "we need to get him checked out. He's been through so much." Henry nodded slowly, not letting go. "Of course, but I'm not leaving his side. Not again." The next few hours were a blur. Dr. Martinez, the local vet, arrived and began checking Rocky. She was amazed by the sudden change in him. Just hours ago, he had been wild with fear. Now, he stood calm and steady, never taking his eyes off Henry. "He's definitely been through a lot," Dr. Martinez said, her tone serious. She noted the old injuries, poorly healed bones, scars, and signs of hunger. "But with the right care and love, he'll recover. He's stronger than he looks." Henry nodded, gently stroking Rocky's head. "He'll get all the love in the world," he promised. "And the best care, no matter what." As Dr. Martinez wrapped up the exam, Rachel walked over with a serious look on her face. "Henry, there's something we need to talk about," she began. "Technically, Rocky is still listed as a shelter dog. There's paperwork and procedures." Henry's heart sank. The idea of being separated from Rocky again, even for a short time, was too painful to bear. But before he could say anything, Rachel raised a hand and smiled. "That said, I think we can make an exception this time. You'll still need to fill out some forms. But honestly, I see no reason why Rocky can't go home with you today. He's already shown us exactly where he belongs." Relief washed over Henry like a wave. "Thank you, Rachel," he said, his voice full of emotion. "You have no idea what this means to me." Word of the unbelievable reunion spread quickly through the small town of Millridge. By the time Henry stepped outside with Rocky by his side, a small crowd had gathered. Many were familiar faces, neighbors who remembered seeing Henry and Rocky on their daily walks. Mrs. Whitaker, Henry's longtime neighbor, pushed her way through the group with tears in her eyes. "Oh, Henry," she gasped, "it really is a miracle. We've all missed seeing the two of you together." Rocky, still overwhelmed by the attention, leaned tightly into Henry's leg. Henry looked down and gave him a reassuring smile. "It's okay, boy," he said softly. "These are all friends." The walk home was slow. Rocky was still weak, and Henry didn't want to rush him. Their neighbors followed behind at a gentle pace, giving them space but wanting to be part of something special. Felt like a celebration, like a moment frozen in time. As they neared Henry's modest little house, Rocky's tail started wagging faster. By the time they stepped onto the front porch, the German shepherd was tugging forward with growing excitement. He remembered. Henry's hands shook as he unlocked the door. The moment it swung open, Rocky bolted inside. His happy barks echoed through the house as he ran from room to room, rediscovering every scent and space. Henry followed, watching with tears in his eyes. It was like the past year had melted away. Rocky found his old bed by the fireplace. Still there, just where it had always been. He circled once and lay down with a peaceful sigh. Henry sank into his armchair, emotion rising in his chest. "Welcome home, Rocky," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Welcome home." The days that followed were filled with joy and healing. Rocky's body began to recover under Henry's loving care. But the emotional wounds took longer. Some nights, Rocky would wake up shaking, whimpering from nightmares Henry couldn't see. He would sit beside him, gently petting his fur and whispering calming words until the fear passed. Bit by bit, Rocky began to trust again. His playful side returned. He chased squirrels in the yard. He pounced on his old squeaky toy, and Henry found himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in over a year. The bond between them, already deep before, became unbreakable. They had both known what it meant to lose each other, and now every moment they shared felt like a gift. As their story spread, it touched hearts far beyond Millridge. First, the local news covered it. Then, national media picked up the story. People across the country were moved by the reunion of an old man and his loyal German shepherd. At first, Henry wasn't sure he wanted all the attention, but Rachel gently encouraged him. "Think about it," she said. "Your story could inspire people to adopt, especially older dogs or those breeds people pass over, like the German shepherd." Henry thought for a moment, then nodded. If their journey could help even one more German shepherd find a second chance, it was worth it. And so, the story of Henry and Rocky, the miracle reunion that no one could explain, continued, not just in their little town, but in hearts everywhere. Henry and Rocky began making appearances on local news programs. Their story appeared in newspapers and across the internet. The response was overwhelming. Donations flooded the Millridge Animal Shelter. Adoption rates soared. But the most powerful change happened right in the community. People began to see the German shepherd in a new light. Rocky's gentle spirit and deep loyalty to Henry showed everyone that this misunderstood breed was full of love and kindness. One afternoon, while Henry and Rocky were walking through the park, a young couple approached them. The woman looked nervous, holding tightly onto her husband's arm. "Excuse me," the man said. "Are you Henry Carter? From the story about the German shepherd?" Henry nodded and smiled. "That's right. And this here is Rocky." The woman took a cautious step forward. Her eyes stayed on Rocky. I've always been scared of pit bulls," she said softly. "But after hearing about your story, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Would it be okay if I pet him?" Henry felt his heart swell. "Of course," he said. "Rocky loves meeting new people. Just let him sniff your hand first." Rocky, sensing her nervousness, stayed calm and still. He sat politely as she held out her hand. His tail wagged gently as she touched his fur. Her face relaxed. The fear faded. "He's so sweet," she whispered, now smiling. She scratched behind his ears, and Rocky leaned into her hand with quiet joy. "I never would have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes." As the couple walked away, the woman was already talking about visiting the shelter. Henry stood still, filled with pride. Rocky's journey, though full of pain, was now helping others and changing hearts. Months passed. Life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Henry and Rocky's morning walks once again became a familiar sight in Millridge. Neighbors smiled as they passed. Kids waved. Old friends stopped to say hello. Rocky, once afraid of every sound, now wagged his tail proudly and greeted everyone with love. On the one-year anniversary of their reunion, Henry planned something special. With Rachel's help, he organized a community event in the town park. It was part fundraiser for the shelter, part celebration of the bond between people and their animals. The turnout was bigger than anyone expected. Families came from all over. Many brought their own rescue dogs. There were games, food stalls, and booths teaching people about adoption and pet care. Rocky was the center of it all. He moved through the crowd like a star, calm, friendly, and full of life. Children played with him. Strangers offered him treats. Rocky accepted it all with quiet joy. Henry watched from nearby, his chest full of pride. As the sun set, he stood to speak. Rocky sat beside him, leaning against his leg, offering comfort and strength. 1 year ago, Henry began, his voice carrying through the quiet park. I thought I had lost my best friend forever. The pain, it nearly broke me. But fate, or maybe something greater, had other plans. He reached down to scratch Rocky behind the ears. Rocky's journey back to me wasn't easy. He went through pain and fear. But what amazes me most is that he never gave up. He never stopped loving, never stopped trusting. Henry looked around at the crowd, at the tearful eyes, the smiles, the families. This story isn't just about a man and his German shepherd. It's about second chances. It's about healing. And most of all, it's about the power of love and the beauty of looking past fear and seeing what's real underneath. Henry looked out over the crowd and then gestured to the shelter volunteers nearby. Every day, there are animals in shelters waiting for their second chance, he said. They might not all have a story like Rocky's, but they all have the same heart, the same ability to love, the same need for a home. He paused, his voice strong and steady. Whether you adopt, volunteer, or simply tell others, your actions can change lives. For the animals, and for people too. As Henry finished, the park erupted in applause. Rocky, sensing the excitement, let out a happy bark. Laughter spread through the crowd. Henry laughed too, then knelt and wrapped his arms around Rocky. The German shepherd leaned into the hug, tail wagging. In that moment, surrounded by friends, hope, and a whole community that had rallied behind their story, Henry felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, the sadness from the past year, the pain of losing Rocky, the fear that they'd never be together again. It all began to fade. What stayed was something deeper, gratitude. Gratitude for a second chance. As the event came to an end and the sky turned to soft twilight, Henry and Rocky began their walk home. Their pace was slow. Rocky's muzzle had a few more gray hairs. Henry's steps weren't quite as quick. But their bond? It was stronger than ever, shaped by pain, forged in separation, and made even more meaningful by how close they had come to losing it all. Henry glanced down. Rocky looked up at him, his eyes filled with love and trust. That simple look said it all, no words needed. A lifetime of friendship, a promise to never waste a single moment again. As they turned onto their street, the porch light ahead glowed softly in the distance. Their home. Henry smiled. Whatever tomorrow brought, he was ready, because now they were together, and that was enough. Sometimes, all it takes is one story to remind us who we are. If this one touched you, hit like, subscribe, and share the light forward. Someone out there needs it more than you know.